We're still on page 8, B, Daf Chet Amud Bet. I'm not going to even elaborate on what we were talking about last class. We're just going to continue where we left off. So he says as follows. Umamshich. Umehacha, we were talking about Cain, and some of you were not here. We're talking about Cain and Hevel, and how Shet came later, and so forth. Okay? Umehacha, because we stopped by Shet. Umehacha, from here on, it b'nei alma begavna achara de alpha beta. From this point and on, the world was developed and built itself in the path, the normal path of the Aleph Bet, what's called Beseder HaYashar, in the right order, Aleph Bet Gimel Dalet Hey Far, and so forth. Velo lemafreya, and not walking backwards, Beseder Tafshin Reish Kuf. Now what's Seder Tafshin Reish Kuf? It's the letters going backwards, right? Taf is the last letter, then Shin, then Reish Kuf, right? It's going the other way around. Two things I want to point out before we continue. The first thing is that if you remember, the ones of you who were here last year, we learned that the letters came in front of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and each letter presented the case why the world should be created with them. And if you remember, we went all the way but backwards from Taf. And we explained that it's the seal system. When you have stamp. When you have a stamp, if on the paper it's the right order, so the stamp has to be reversed, right? So since in this world we have Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, and it's like a stamp, so in the world above it's Taf, Shin, Kuf, Reish, Kuf, right? So this is one thing just to pay attention. But what does it sound familiar to you? Taf, Shin, Reish, Kuf. Or I will say, Tashrak. It's how you blow the shofar. Tkiya, Shvarim, Trua, Tkiya, right? That's the order how we blow the shofar. Isn't it amazing? Taf, Shin, Reish, Kuf. But this is Lemafreya, the other way around. I just find it interesting how we blow the shofar in the same order, how the letters are reversed. Because that's what the Nachash did. He reversed the letters. But Adam HaRishon was able to correct it, and from this point on, the letters were going in the right order. Shayu meshamshim achar shechatu Adam v'Chava, that the letters, they used the letters after Adam and Chava sinned. Now we stop and we say as follows. Ve'amar, ki kenan haya tikun Kain. Yes, yesterday. Before we said that Shet was the Gilgul of Hevel, right? Now after Shet, who comes? Who came after Shet? I mean, the Torah lays down the generations. No, after Shet comes Enosh. Right? Now who comes after Enosh? Kenan. Right? You trust me, huh? Yeah, you'll approve. You approve. Okay. So the order goes as follows. Shet, Enosh, Kenan, then Mahalalel, then from Mahalalel Yered, then from Yered Chanoch, from Chanoch Metushelach, from Metushelach Lemech, and from Lemech Noach. That's the order. Ele Toldot HaShamayim, right? It's important to know because we have to see what came after and what corrected what. So Shet was a Gilgul of Hevel. Now he says as follows. Kenan, Haya Tikun Shel Kain. Kenan came after Kain to rectify Kain. He didn't say Gilgul, just said Tikun. Ki yesh b'shmo otiyot Kain. He has in him the letter Kain, Kuf Yud Nun, but Nun Nosefet, another Nun, Kenan, Hamora al Malchut, that is hinting on the Malchut, She'i aska b'tikun nishmat Kain kedilkaman. The Malchut was busy with rectifying the neshama of Kain that fell the most deep into the Klippa, right? That's what we learned yesterday. So the Nun represents the Malchut. I hope you remember, but from 3 days ago, I said there are 49 gates, right, in the sphere of Bina. Remember? And then all the way down, and the Nun, the Malchut was the 50th. Remember I told you the Malchut is called Yam, and it's not ocean, rather the numerical value of 50, Yud and Mem. Why the Malchut is called Yam? Not because it's an ocean. Erase the word ocean. Rather, it's the numerical value of 50, which is the 50 level after Bina, after the 49 gates. So the extra Nun of Kenan came from the Malchut. Wait, all right, hold on. Then what happened? Then we have Mahalalel, who came after Canaan. Mahalalel has ot mem shelo, the mem of Mahalalel is ot achona shel Shem Adam. It's the last mem of Adam. Because Adam is Aleph Daled Mem. Okay, so the last letter of Adam, Mem, went to Mahalalel. Otiyot Hey Lamed, because Mahalalel, you write Mem Hey Lamed, right? Mem Hey Lamed Lamed Aleph Lamed. So the Mem belongs to Adam. The Hey Lamed Romzot Lebet Otiyot Hey Lamed Shel Hevel. It were taken from the Hey Lamed of Hevel. ועוד אותיות א' למד מורות על הבל עצמו. Why? כי היה ראוי, they're hinting on Hevel himself, כי היה ראוי להיקרא האל ונהפכה האלף לבית. Hevel was supposed to be he was a very lofty neshama. He was supposed to call Ha'el. But the Aleph was switched with the Bet because of the order. When the Nachash switched the order, so instead of Aleph, Ha'el, it became Hevel. So the Nachash switched the order, so it became Hevel. Uvishmo shel Mahalalel netakno. So Mahalalel came and did a rectification for Adam and for Hevel. Now he continues and he says, Ve'amar, Itosaf ot nun letakana akima. Now the letters, nun, that was added to Canaan, to fix the name of Cain, כדי לתקן מה שנתעקם בקין. Cain, there was a distortion there, so it needed a rectification. So Canaan got the extra nun to fix the distortion of Cain. כי אות nun מורה על המלכות, as we explained before, the אות nun is corresponding to the malchut, שהיא עסקה בתיקון קין, that the malchut was rectifying Cain. Now that we know a little bit, very briefly we just touched that Adam HaRishon started, there was a glitch in the system, a hack, so Cain and Hevel got mixed with the impurity of the Nachash, which they became half human, half reptile. And after 130 years of tikkun of Adam HaRishon sitting in the Gichon, then Shet came and started the tikkun. And it required all these generations to do the tikkun, to do the rectification. And especially for the soul of Cain and Hevel. And now we're going to kind of jump to another topic, just because A, we don't have time, B, because we want to cover as much as what we can. But nevertheless, we're going to start very briefly, talking about something that we were waiting for quite a while, about the 7 countries, not countries, the 7 levels, the 7 dimensions in the ground, in the earth itself. And there's a lot more to it. Now we're going to start just explaining just a little bit, because it has to do with the tikkun of Adam HaRishon. But let me read, then I'll explain more. Sidura de Alma Besheva Katrin Segalgalan. The order of the world that is in 7 igulim, 7 circles, the order of the world is in 7 circles. Vehainu, Sheva Haratzot Inun, Delda Le'ela Minda. There are 7 levels, one above the other, and they're in a form of a circle. Saying, in other words, that the earth is a ball and they're in circles. So of course the one that's inside is the smaller, and the one outside has the largest diameter. And he says as follows: Sheva Aratzot, and he calls each level an eretz. Shehem agulot kakadur, that they're round like a ball. Yesh ze lemala mizeh, one is above the other. Now there is an argument if it's ball, 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 ball. You understand what I'm saying? One above the other. Or like the first ball and then another one on it and another one and another one, and circling it. So really it's that the inner ball is covered with another big ball and another big ball around that, and it's all a ball over a ball. Kama de'inun shiv'a rakein dela le'ela minda. The same way that there are 7 firmaments, also rounded, one above the other. So really there are 14 circles, one inside the other. 7 that are called the earth, and 7 that are the firmaments. And that's not the end, by the way, because we know there are higher firmaments above that. But now he's talking about this structure. Ve'inun, and these 7 lands, 7 layers, milemata lemala. What is the order? From the bottom one to the top one. So the bottom one or the inner one. So the lowest one is called Eretz. The next one is called Adama. The next one is called Arka. The next one is called Gay. The next one is called Neshia. The next one is called Tzia. And the top one is called Tevel. These are the 7 levels of the 7 layers within the ball. Le'ela mikulhu, and above all of these layers, on the top of it, the level that is the surface is called Tevel. This is where we are. Lemala mikulam, she's above all of them. Vehi hashlema mikulam. This is the most perfect one or the most completed one. Lefishi krova lemalchut shamayim, because it's the closest to the kingdom of the heavens. Vehi mushpat barishona. So that's the first level that receives the shefa, the energy from the world above. Dichtiv. Now he's quoting a verse. That this verse, there are many ways of lidrosh to explain this verse. This verse can be found in the book of Tehillim, chapter 9, verse 9. This is in Tehillim. Vehu ishpot tevel betzedek. Hu ishpot tevel betzedek, the translation, but he judges the world with the right, with righteousness. It's not what it's talking about. But for whatever reason, David HaMelech said that. But what's interesting here, Hu ishpot, he will judge Tevel. Tevel is the higher level, betzedek. Now tzedek can be translated as righteousness. But what else is called tzedek? The planet. Jupiter. Jupiter is called tzedek. So David HaMelech is saying to us that Tevel is being judged, which means getting shefa, or control, or I don't know even another word to say that for yishpot, but coming from tzedek. This is something to think about. We're not going to talk about it right now. I'm just trying to develop why is David HaMelech says such a verse, and not only that, it doesn't make even sense. So what do you mean? He's going to judge the Tevel with righteousness? What? Somewhere else he doesn't judge it with righteousness. Hashem is going to judge a different dimension, not with righteousness. But anyway, you're not going to stop too much. The reason why I'm telling you that, because later on we're going to start going more into the inner dimension, why there are balls hovering in the universe that we call them planets, and why specifically he's saying that the earth is judged with the planet. No, he doesn't say the word planet. With tzedek. Now he's using the word lishfot, but when I judge something, it's not only that I judge like a judge in a court. It's also a judge can be in you have sports, there's a judge there. Who's right, who's wrong, what needs to be done. It's kind of creating the rules. It's like as if we do know that the planets control this planet. But I'm just saying that as a side note because it's interesting to me that the Zohar decides to quote a verse from Tehillim using the word Tevel. Okay, now let's not ponder on this too much, so we can try to squeeze as much as we can, and then later on we'll have to elaborate about everything. Next, now he says as follows. Now that we know that the place where we are on is a ball, which kind of contradicts many that there are theories that the earth is flat. I'm not going to get into these arguments right now, but according to what the Zohar says, we are on a ball. A cube. I don't think it's a cube. But nevertheless, listen, that's why I'm not going to get into these arguments right now. I'm just teaching you what the Zohar says. The Zohar says we are on a ball. There are 7 layers, all in a shape of a ball, and all in a circular way. So to make it a long story short, the inner ball is the smallest, and the diameter is the smallest, and it's the most inner one. But then there's another diameter around it, and another one, and the one on the top, where we are on, supposedly, then this has the largest diameter. Okay? Now let's continue. And I'm telling you, now we're not going to talk too much about these layers, because later on, that's how I promised you many times, not today, we're going to learn about the creatures in every level, why there are creatures there, what made creatures over there, and so forth, and what's going on underneath us. There's whole civilizations under the ground. But now we're not going to talk about that. Now we're just kind of throwing the good news into the air. Now let's continue and see what he says. Kad nafak Adam miginta de'eden ve'itarach mitaman. When Adam HaRishon got kicked out of Gan Eden, when Adam HaRishon got kicked out of Gan Eden, saying in other words, by the way, that the Gan Eden that he's talking about is on the top level, on the surface. We're not going to talk about it right now, but Gehenom is in one of these levels. Not in Eretz, by the way. Nevertheless, Itra Meilehahu de Ikrei Eretz. Where was he thrown into? He was thrown into the lowest of all levels that is called Eretz. Shehu Makom HaShvi'i ve'atachton mikol sheva aratzot. That is the lowest and the seventh from all the levels. Now here I don't have the right word to translate because he says aratzot. Eretz is a country if you translate it. But Eretz can also be a land. But he means like a level. So we'll call it a layer now, or a level. As long as you understand what I'm talking about, then when he says he's the lowest of all the levels, number 7. De'ihu atar chashuch. It's a very, very dark place. De'elet tama nehiru klum. There's no light there at all. Pitch black. Ve'la meshamesh klum. And the place is so, not deserted, what's the word? Desolated? Is that the right word? Shmama. There's nothing there. It's like a completely desolated place, and it doesn't do anything. Doesn't benefit anything. You know, all the other levels, at least something's going on there. That place is complete pitch dark, and there's nothing there. Ve'en sham lo nivraim. There's no creatures there. Lo kochavim. There's no planets. Ve'lo mazalot. And no zodiac. Now you know what I take just from this little comment? That in the other layers, there are planets and zodiacs. Now how far is from here to, let's say, just for the sake of the example, to go out of space, from here to the moon?
10 hours.
Forget about hours, distance.
Light years.
Forget about light years. Let's say 100,000 kilometers. Who measured it? NASA. Oh, yeah. Somebody to trust. But the point is, forget about that. We're looking in our solar system, and we know that we're in the middle, and there's a whole solar system, there's other planets, they're all turning on their axis. But according to what he's saying here, in the lowest of all, there's no planets and no zodiac. But he says only here there's no. So maybe in the 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd, they also have a solar system with their own planets and with their own existence. So basically, we're looking up to the sky. Who says that the sky above us is blue? Maybe it's just the ceiling of the ball we're in, and it's painted in blue. And who says that when you see the stars, it's actually millions of miles away? Maybe it's just dots on the ceiling. Okay, just something to think about. And again, I'm not now going to argue with the existence of everything. I'm just saying, because we have to start imagining how it looks down there. Now, if you hypothetically cut the ball in half, so what would be the depth of the entire ball? Would be, kama? 24,000 what, kilometers? About 24,000 kilometers. Now divide that in 7. That's about 3,000 kilometers each level. I'm just throwing numbers, right? So the cutting it in half, listen, it's really irrelevant. I'm just trying to make a point. The distance between the bottom and the top of each level, they can easily have a whole sky there. It's not like that you're under the ground and you with flashlights on your heads. It can be an entire place, like a world, and they have a sky too. And light or whatever it is, must be something there. I mean, I'm just trying to use our imagination. What's going on underneath us? But in the next pages, he explains a little bit more. Now, he just says as follows. He's just talking about where Adam HaRishon was thrown to, a place called Eretz. Eino meshamesh klum, nothing's happening there. En sham nivraim, there's no creatures over there. Lo kochavim, no stars and planets. Velo mazalot, and no zodiac. Ki haaretz hazo, because that level that is called Aretz, he keneged rekia hanikra vilon. It's corresponding to the firmament that is called vilon. And don't translate it now to curtain. I know it sounds like a curtain. There's a different reason why it's called vilon. She'eno meshamesh klum. There's a firmament above us that is completely empty. There's nothing there. And there's no shimush. It doesn't produce anything or do anything. So this level where Adam HaRishon was thrown into is called Eretz. Kivan de Adam al taman, since Adam HaRishon was kicked into there, dachil dechilu sage. He fell into unbelievable fear. He went into a shock. Just imagine a creature falling into the stomach of the earth, and it says, Dachil dechilu sage, very, very big fear. Ke'adam shenigaresh mimakom ha'or, like the man that was kicked out of the place of light, v'nitcha pit'om el makom choshech v'tzal mavet. And he was pushed suddenly to a place of darkness and death. Now, he's not saying it here, but where does the word salmavet sound familiar? Gam ki elech beget salmavet. Also, if I would walk in the valley of the shadow of death. Oh, what is this place called Salmavet? We'll talk about that place another time. But nevertheless, Adam HaRishon was thrown there and he got into like the shock of his life. שמתבלבל שכלו ודעתו. He went into some type of a bilbul, a confusion, and his dad, he went, in other words, like cuckoo. And he totally lost his mind from the fear. Now, this is, I'm telling you that personally, even though there's another few thousand people watching through that lens, but when I had my near-death experience, if you remember some of it, when I kind of like woke up, was in this place of complete darkness and nothingness that seemed like eternal and no size. And the first thing that struck me was fear that you can't even explain what type of a fear it is. It's like it penetrated into my soul to a point that I felt exactly what he says here. Complete, what did he say? Bilbul sichlo v'da'ato. Complete like craziness in the mind and in the da'at. I can't even explain how it felt. And I see here that Adam HaRishon was also kicked there and fell into some type of an anxiety or some status of a craziness. Uvchen, yada shu gzerat hamelech la'anisho. But he understood that was the decree of the king to punish him. Ki, why? How did he know that? Ve'la tacherev hamitapechet. Because when Adam HaRishon went out of Gan Eden, it said that the cherubs were placed in front of Gan Eden to guard, and then it said there was the blade of the revolving sword to guard the way of the tree of life. That's what it says in the Torah. Adam HaRishon, how did he know that Hashem wanted to punish him? Because the sword was placed to guard the tree of life. Hava milahata bechol sitra go hahu eretz. The lahat. Now lahat, the translation is lahat. The thing is like this. One can translate it as something when a metal becomes very, very, very hot. This is called lahat. That it becomes beyond to a point that the metal it has a color already. If you put like a piece of metal now in a regular stove, nothing happens to it. Put it in 5,000 degrees, it becomes red to a point that you can also already start shifting, that's what you say? Shaping the metal. So, lahat hacherev hamitapechet, this lahat of the sword, which means it metaphorically reached to such high levels of temperatures that it was burning, to a point of burning. Lahat zot hayta lohetet bechol tzad beoto haaretz. He saw the, so to say, the burning, the fire of the sword, that everywhere that he went in this place, the lahat, has to be a word in English, maybe you can help me. You know where also you see lahat? In the old light bulbs. Now the light bulbs are LED. But the old light bulbs had inside like these two antennas and a little wire inside. Huh? Filament? But whatever, but that wire, exactly, that's what causes the light. Right? Because it heats up and it causes light. So the sword would burn up in this place, Eretz, and obviously gave Adam HaRishon some light. But, excuse me, like a light sword. Maybe it was like from the Jedis, no? But nevertheless, let's just read it again. Ve'lat hacherev hamitapechet. That was given, the sword was given to guard the way, the path of the tree of life. This flame or the lahat, the redness, the light that it causes was in every place, wherever he went in this place, Aretz. ואין לך צער בעולם כראות האדם פעם להט ופעם חושך. There's no such sorrow in this world, in this universe, of that for 1 second there was complete darkness, 1 second Adam HaRishon sees the light. 1 second darkness, 1 second he sees the light. פעם להט, פעם חושך. בתקיפה ובפתע. I'm imagining, tkifa is when it comes like strong, peta is a surprise. I'm imagining Adam HaRishon standing there in the middle of darkness, and suddenly like, imagine you take now a rope, but a metal rope, and you put at the end like a boiling hot coil, and you start going like this, strong, right? So it looks like the ball is turning around of fire. So I'm imagining something like that going in circles real fast. So he's in complete darkness. Suddenly, and excuse my sound effects, like some fire going in front of him. But the fire is lighting up where he is. So for 1 second he has some peace of mind when he sees a little bit of light, and then back to the darkness. And I'm just going to repeat what it says here. En lecha tsa'ar ba'olam. There's no such sorrow in this world, kirot ha'adam, like when Adam saw paham lahat, paham choshech. 1 second he sees the lahat, 1 second he sees the darkness. And it comes betkifa or befeta, strong and surprisingly. Pitom davar v'hipucho. Every second it changes. That I can tell you, and again, it's very hard for me always to describe what I saw in my experience. This is exactly how it is, davar v'hipucho. That you see something and it changes, it's something and it changes, something and it changes. It can drive you like completely nuts. But it's fear, it's involved fear in it. Now it continues, let's just read a little bit more and conclude. Kevan de nafak Shabbat vehirer b'tshuva. Now, right after the sin, what came out? Wow, bored you to death, huh? What came out right after the sin? Shabbat. Kevan sheyatza Shabbat. Kivan the nafik Shabbat. What did Adam HaRishon do when Shabbat came out? Tshuva. Hirher b'tshuva. Let me read it again. Kevan the nafak Shabbat. Right after this whole thing, Shabbat came out. So it calls him v'hirher b'tshuva. He did tshuva. Arim lekut shabrichu usalik lelehu atar deikri adma. Then in the merit of the hirhur tshuva, hirhur means to think. He didn't even do anything. Just to think or to contemplate or to decide. Just because of the hirhur tshuva, whoop, Adam HaRishon was elevated. Kadosh Baruch Hu elevated him and he elevated him to one level above, to the level that is called Adama. שהיא ארץ אחת למעלה מהמקום התחתון הנקרא ארץ. So, because of his tshuva, his thinking of doing tshuva, he was elevated one level up. The place is called Adama, and one level above the seventh one. Dichtiv, as it says in the parasha, Vayishalcheu Hashem Elokim migan Eden la'avod et ha'adama. Right? This is a verse in the Torah, in parasha. And Hashem, God, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokim. Very interesting. This is always fascinating me. Why the Torah sometimes chooses to say Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Sometimes it chooses to say Elokim. And sometimes it chooses to say Vayeshalcheu Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokim. So we're not going to lidrosh on this right now. But Hashem sent him from Gan Eden la'avod et ha'adama. Now, if you translate la'avod et ha'adama is to toil, so to say, and to plow the land. But he didn't send him to work on the land over there. So he says, la'avod et ha'adama. He was able to go one level high to a place called Adama. Dahainu achar shegurash migan Eden. He got kicked out of Gan Eden to a place called Eretz be'erev Shabbat, right before Shabbat. Zacha b'tshuvato. He did tshuva, erev Shabbat. Ve'ala miyad. And right away he was able to go up. So he wasn't there for so long. Uve'b'motza'ei Shabbat, after Shabbat, he was relocated to a place called Adama. Behai it nehiru denahir. In that place, at least, you know what there's there? A little bit of light. There's light in this place. Ve'dyuknin de kochavaya umazale. And what do you have in this level? You have planets and you have the zodiac. But not really their existence, rather their light is shining in there. So let me just repeat it. Behai it nehiru denahir. In this place, light shines. So there's some type of light. What is the light that shines in? Dyuknin ve'kochavya de mazale. The shapes of the planet and the light of the stars and the planet and the zodiac, but not really their existence, rather their shine is in there. Now I'm just going to read one line, we're going to finish, but just to for the promo, for you to see what we're up to learning very soon. Vetaman, over there in this place called Adama, Tziyurin divnei nasha ilain guvrin, there are creatures that there are spirits in the shape of humans. And this is where I'm going to stop when we're going to continue in our series about the underground civilizations. What is going on in all the levels? Who's there? Why they're there? How did they get there? What they're doing there? What are they doing there right now? Maybe they have a Facebook account and we can send them a friend request. So, but nevertheless, the Adam HaRishon already got to a level, a place, to a close, it says Adama, called Adama, and it says the Bnei Adam Elyonim, there are these creatures there, and there are spirits in the image of a human. And I'm going to stop here. It starts explaining, and of course Adam HaRishon was also mating with what's going on there. That's why it started all these civilizations and all the levels. Later on we're going to continue talking, but really what it's important for us to summarize it now is not what we're going to continue learning about the civilizations, but to summarize the fact that Adam HaRishon got kicked from Gan Eden to the lowest of all places in the universe. Later on he was elevated to the next level, and of course we have to wait till he was elevated to the top level, which is Tevel, and from here we're going to stop and continue next class and explain everything else. But this at least is opening to us the door, the passage, to start understanding that there's an entire civilization, or I should say civilizations, in many levels into the ground, and there's a whole life going on underneath us. And now we'll see and find out what the Zohar has to say about what's going on there. Who is there? Why are they there? How come we don't see them? How come we don't interact with them? Are they more advanced than us, or are they less advanced than us? How do they look? That will be revealed very soon in the next few classes. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.